Have gown. Will wed. A workplace-ish romance. Written by Killian McRae. Episode 3.
Chapter 8. Xavier. Corey left the room the moment my guest settled into his chair. I generally didn't like to conduct candidate interviews in my own office. Neutral ground in a public environment gave better insights. File number 6, however, had a schedule difficult to penetrate. By chance, however, he had an existing obligation on his calendar in the building next to mine and offered that he could free up 20 minutes. Kane Kennedy's cocky grin annoyed me. Or at least, I read it as cocky. After the previous night with Rosalind, and feeling my attraction to her sharpen instead of diminishing as I'd expected, I would admit that how I viewed other people through that lens had been contaminated. The realization drove me to finish out this placement sooner rather than later. If I got to the point where I thought no one was good enough for her, I'd fail, costing my firm thousands of dollars in profit. I opened my folio and examined the necessary documents. Now that you've signed the NDA, I can tell you about the position.
Must be one hell of a high-profile gig to demand all this secrecy.
In a way, I said, shuffling papers. Do you mind if I ask you a question first? One that's just idle curiosity? Kane's brow bunched up.
I suppose.
I tapped a finger on his file. In our background search, we discovered that you're a generous donor to the San Francisco Opera, but I don't recall seeing you at any of the members' galas. Then again, I wasn't really looking for you. No, I was looking for women. Women without dates, preferably ones with a drink already in hand. With a tug on his pant leg, Kane crossed his legs.
Was there a question there?
The quick flick mannerism suggested he felt threatened or intimidated, even if on a subconscious level. His movements were meant to serve as a warning, as if to say, I'm agile and aware. Don't pounce on me and expect me to go quietly. I pulled back my stoic face into a smile, signaling him to relax. I guess I was just surprised to meet another single male donor. The opera patrons tend to be the elderly or an occasional wealthy woman. People like you and me, we're sort of the odd ones. In reflection, Kane's posture loosened. He grinned back at me.
I'll have to take your word on that. Not really into opera. My people said it would be good for my image and my tax deductions if I made a sizable donation.
Image? Not something the head of a financial organization usually worried about. Perhaps Kane Kennedy had aspirations in politics, like his famous, though coincidental surname suggested. Could I see Rosalind as the Jackie O type? Possibly, though in the modern incarnation of the phenome. Fewer pearls and more pearl. Of course, thank you for indulging my curiosity. The man across the desk from me wove his fingers together and flexed them.
No problem. Now, how about you tell me why I'm here? I have to leave for my next appointment in a few minutes.
Certainly, Mr. Kennedy. Are you familiar with Beta House?
Vaguely, but I'm not a techie. I don't really get all that coding, programming, making computer stuff up thing. If the position is there, I wouldn't be interested.
It's not a position with the company. This is a little outside my standard operation, so let me just put it out there. Beta House's CEO has hired me to pre-screen suitable men for...
A dominant?
Kane interjected. Shock cut off my air supply. When I didn't speak, Kennedy continued.
Ever since that one movie came out years ago, it's running rampant. Powerful people looking to play out their fantasies with other powerful people.
I tightened my tenuous grasp on professionalism. If Rosalind did choose Kane, they'd share the ability to make conversations awkward. She's not looking for a dominant.
A submissive, then?
Kane ventured next, without the slightest hint of jest.
Can't say I'd suit that role very well.
My eyes fluttered closed. I'd like to say the image of what Rosalind might look like in leather didn't play on the back of my eyelids. It didn't last long, at least. Bondage didn't suit her. But a silky pink teddy with fur lining? Actually, Mr. Kennedy, she's interested in getting married. That stopped him cold.
I'm sorry. Are you saying I'm here because some desperate she-geek is looking for a husband?
Kane's voice shrunk to a fraction of its previous size.
Is this a joke?
I couldn't blame his gut reaction. All of the potential candidates I'd spoken to had had a similar take. She's not desperate, she's deliberate. I know it sounds crazy, but trust me, it's not. This woman is among the most intelligent, ambitious, and passionate clients I've ever had.
So great personality, but ugly.
Were all men such Neanderthals? Not that I see this as important, but no, she's not. She's captivating. She has eyes like gemstones. Her smile could quell a storm. And when she looks at you, you feel like all you need in life is to know that a woman like that loves you, and everything else is meaningless. The reason this NDA is so restrictive, Mr. Kennedy, is because I am duty-bound to protect this client's reputation. Not only because of professional reasons, but because I want to be sure any man I approach on her behalf is worthy of everything she offers. Do you think you're worthy? As anticipated, the hook had landed the fish. Kane leaned forward, practically salivating.
Who is she?
Rosalind Betters.
Rosalind?
Kennedy shifted in his chair, beaming. There was something light and frivolous in that expression, one that suggested he welcomed this revelation.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but Rosalind has a reputation as a bit of of being frigid.
Anger roiled within me, and I hoped Kennedy didn't see how my knuckles had gone white, grabbing the arm of the chair. How I managed to keep my voice flat could qualify me for sainthood. That's outside of my purview, Mr. Kennedy. All I can say is that she has hired me to pre-screen candidates on her behalf, and I found you to be well aligned with her list of qualifications.
Oh, she has a list of qualifications, does she? Put some thought into this, it seems.
Indeed, as have I. On her behalf, of course. Maybe I shouldn't tell you this, Mr. Kennedy, but my junior partner who assisted me with picking out the final candidates believes you are the one. Now, ultimately, that's for Rosalind, for Miss Betters, to decide. However, if you would be interested in meeting with her, I could...
I would.
His decisive remark took me by surprise. You would?
Of course I would. Rosalind Betters. Yes, definitely yes.
Kennedy put on his business face.
With one condition.
So, we'd reached negotiations. A positive sign, if a surprising one. Yes?
Like I said, Rosalind has a reputation. I'm not interested in being married to a woman who can't bend a little. Don't get me wrong, Holmes. I'm not talking old-fashioned, a woman's place type of concern. A marriage is a partnership. Both parties have to be willing to cede to the other from time to time. I need to know if Rosalind is capable of that.
I couldn't argue with what he put forth, but I really had no idea how to address it. All I can say is that the few times I've met with Ms. Betters, she seemed very personable and open to discussion. Kennedy clicked his tongue.
That's in professional circumstances. I need to know if she's a good dance partner.
A what? I hoped he wasn't talking about the kind of dance I was suddenly thinking about. I'm not sure that I could provide insight on that. His hand to his pocket and Kennedy brought out his cell.
Don't worry, Holmes. I know a way you could. I just need to make a phone call to set it all up.
Chapter 9. Rosalind. I feel like Bruce Wayne should be arriving any moment. I sipped at my champagne. So far, the only good thing I'd encountered since arriving at the firemen's charity ball.
Tell me about it.
Kamakshi overlooked the crowd of swirling black suits and pale ballroom dresses.
I used to think these sort of things were made up by Hollywood. They're even less impressive in real life. I wonder what else Hollywood is lying to us about.
Next thing, you'll be telling me people don't really fall in love in a nice sequential pattern set against a quirky situation with a bit of comedy relief on the side, I added. No one would ever guess, based on the current landscape, that San Francisco's inhabitants were known for their bold fashion choices. Averaging out all the designer labels, the shade of the night fell into the gray spectrum. Only the music held any color. At the far end of the converted firehouse, a big band blared out interchanges of swing and old standards. At random intervals, men donning tuxes and women in varying degrees of sparkles and shock stood in small groups, milling. To the casual observer, they engaged in nothing more than idle chatter, soaking in the decorations, or savoring the spreads of haute cuisine that looked almost as expensive and well-dressed up as they were. As much money and influence flew back and forth in these conversations as words, whether in the form of insider stock tips or investment pitches. So, not my type of thing. Oh, I enjoyed making money. Correction, earning money. But I didn't embrace the art of financial contortionism like some sort of high-stakes fantasy league so many of these upper tax bracketeers did. Money was secondary in career and focus. Little I aspired to, after providing for necessities, was motivated by the likelihood of riches. Though, admittedly, it was a convenient consequence. I turned back to my friend with an appreciative eye. At least you look great. I so wish I could pull off a red sari. Well, a red anything. But with my bisque skin, I'd look like I'm impersonating a candy cane. Kamakshi laid a hand on my shoulder.
Seriously, stop. You look fabulous. Not everyone can pull off yellow and not look like either Big Bird or a dandelion. You look elegant.
Ladies.
We turned to find Prashant, dressed in his black sherwani with gold embroidery, the perfect match to Kamakshi's traditional Indian garb. He bore a prideful smile and, more importantly, bite-sized chocolates. Kamakshi, have I told you yet how much I approve of your choice of fiancé? I pinched a truffle between two fingers. Any man who comes bearing sweets when we only sent him to put our coats away is okay by me. Kamakshi giggled as she handed off the second drink she'd been holding.
I knew you would love him.
Prashant leaned in toward Kamakshi.
And I knew you would love me.
At least their kissing was brief and by modern standards, chaste. Prashant scarcely made contact with Kamakshi's lips before he pulled back. The gravity that lingered between them as he retreated, however, signaled clearly that the brevity wasn't due to lack of want.
Not the most exciting party ever, but still beats sitting at home and doing balance sheets.
He remarked as he turned back to the crowd.
And the food looks good. Thank you again, Rosalind, for inviting us.
Thank you for suffering through it with me, I returned. I'm still not sure why I got tickets. I spoke to the venture capitalist who's throwing the shindig, but I didn't pursue his offer. But when I got into work today, there they were. 3 tickets for tonight. Actually, it had been 2. But I'd been trying to find an opportunity to meet Prashant for several weeks without any luck. Buying one extra $3,000 ticket was worth the cost of making sure my best friend's fiancé was up to snuff. The way he doted on her over dinner and spoke like we were old friends held up with my expectations so far. I held up the glass of champagne for closer inspection. Don't you think they'd raise a whole lot more money for the Firemen's Union if they served up some PBR rather than this stuff? Prashant bobbed his head.
My mother always said these sort of parties were a bad excuse to support a good cause with a great number of eyes.
Brings chocolates and dispenses wisdom. You keep impressing. Kamakshi sipped her cranberry mocktail. Despite my insistence to go for the expensive booze and drink back part of the ticket fee, she insisted she wasn't in the mood.
May your potential husband prove to be as good as mine.
I pulled the flute to my lips once more. From your mouth to God's ear. Prashant turned a vacant expression to his fiancée.
What's that?
Rosalind's getting married.
To who?
The matchmaker hasn't told her yet.
My ivory cheeks reddened. Still don't believe I'm serious about it, do you? Kamakshi pulled back into Prashant's side.
When have you ever been not serious? I'm just worried is all. This works in India because the parents or someone else who's really shown a talent for making matches works it all out. I can't stand the idea of you getting hurt if your guy screws up. Why can't you just date, figure it out on your own?
Given the current divorce rate, I can't possibly imagine that going the traditional route would make the end product any more a guarantee, I said. Besides, I trust Xavier Ohms to do his job. He understands where I'm coming from. The moan of a clarinet hushed the room. The lights lowered, and the fractal beams cast out from a disco ball overhead sent fingers of silver, red, and green flittering over the crowd. Prashant placed his glass on the nearest highboy.
Come, my love.
He held out a hand.
May I have the honor?
A look of concern clouded Kamakshi's features.
Are you sure it's safe?
I knew Kamakshi wasn't an experienced ballroom dancer, but I didn't see how it could be dangerous. Maybe Prashant had 2 left feet. Prashant slid his fingers over hers, leading my best friend toward the end of the room, where couples swayed in adagio time.
Love, I would never let you fall for anything but me.
Enough charm, you silly boy. I've already agreed to marry you.
I wasn't such a hopeless romantic that I'd dare say something as corny as though they were made for each other. But even I could admit the two looked, acted, and even moved as though they'd been together for years. Kamakshi took to being in love like a duck to water. She veritably glowed with happiness. Had I not actually been so honestly appreciative and envious of that fact, it would have been sickening. It had been 3 weeks since I hired Xavier, and though he said he was actively screening and had done a few additional observations of me, one of which included just watching me drink coffee, which frankly was creepy as hell, he still hadn't presented me with a single candidate, which made me wonder, were there any? And when I finally met a candidate, would I fall in love so easily and quickly as my best friend had, as though falling into the ocean and surrendering to its pull? I doubted it. By nature, I knew myself to be a contrarian. But at some level, I really wanted, perhaps needed, to feel that someone wanted me that way. A pang in the pit of my stomach tightened imperceptibly, not unlike the feeling I'd gotten when Xavier Holmes's eyes had focused on my lips as I ate. The warmth spread throughout my limbs in time, all the way down to the tips of my tingly fingers and prickly earlobes. I had forgotten how a handsome man could do that to a woman, how with nothing more than a coy smile or an entrancing cologne, he could disarm all her self-trained attachment and render her so completely female. To be in a man's arms again, to feel the press of lips on mine, to have my breath hitch the moment I knew he was going to kiss me, and kiss me again, and that I would kiss him right back. My fingers danced over my lips, trailing a path down my jawline as my eyes fluttered closed, my mind's eye conjuring a vision of an as yet faceless question mark. Then, realizing what an idiot I must look like, I snapped to attention and chastised how easily I let the want of something so ridiculous overtake me. I glanced left and right, seeing if anyone had noticed my moment of indiscretion. Luckily, everyone was too wrapped up in their own conversations or had their eyes fixed on the dance floor where some elegant couple twirled like Fred and Ginger. This was part of the reason I hadn't gone out of my way to date the last few years. Distraction at this point in my career could hurt in so many ways, the least of which was emotional. But why was the thought of getting married doing this to me? Why, without even a particular man to blame for such feelings? Was I itchy and frustrated in my own skin? It wasn't like I was heading into a whirlwind romance. I was heading into whirlwind matrimony, just like head over heels, deliriously happy Kamakshi.
Ms. Betters, I would say you clean up nice, but I've never seen your dirty side, so I don't know which I prefer.
My hand fluttered to my neck as piercing silver eyes beamed at me from under a crown of ebony hair. You're the last person I expected to creep up on me in the dark and scare me half to death. Most contractors do that by sending me their bill.
Sadly, my accounts receivable team has that pleasure, and they're not here. I do apologize.
Xavier stepped in closer as the brass section of the band kicked up, layering the soundscape with audible fog.
How are you?
Surprised and confused. You've outed yourself as a stalker after all, Mr. Holmes. How he managed to come off as unique and genuine, not to mention strikingly handsome, amongst a sea of normalized mendacity was beyond understanding. Xavier Holmes stood before me, a Picasso among polka dots. His appearance enlightened one on how a tuxedo was supposed to make a man look. Suave, refined, classy, gentlemanly, and yes, for lack of a better term, sexy.
I only stalk on the clock.
He answered cheerily.
There's no need for such formality here, Rosalind. Call me Xav.
My addled brain pointed out that his nickname sounded like someone had combined the words sex and safe. Yet the interdisciplined businesswoman inside me, the one who had been grilled by a former employer on the pitfalls of sexual harassment, reminded me of the terrible things that could happen when you mix business and pleasure, even if that person was not technically your employee. Even more complicated if the duty of the one in question was to find you a spouse. Adopting a formal air, I turned to asking the obvious. If you're not here stalking me, then why are you here?
The host is a friend of a client.
He took a wide swath of the room under inspection.
Tip Travers throws one hell of a party, doesn't he?
I couldn't tell if he was being sarcastic. Not knowing how to respond, I pulled the glass of champagne to my lips. All for a good cause, I muttered before tipping it back, trying to draw the drink out as long as possible. As I found too often in life, there wasn't enough wine.
Indeed. I think the purchase of wine alone is responsible for the livelihood of several Sonoma County vintners and possibly one or two in the Loire Valley.
Suspicion tugged at my sleeve. And if we were to assign shares for the partaking of said wine, he cocked his chin.
You think I'm drunk?
On the contrary, I suspect you're merely tipsy. His fingers pinched a small space of air.
But I assure you, I'm perfectly clear-headed. I'm at my peak performance when I'm a little loose.
While I am a little loose when at my peak performance. A sparkle from the disco ball caught in his right eye, drawing my gaze straight into his. I hoped I wasn't wearing red in my cheeks now, but the heat I felt brimming beneath my skin suggested otherwise. He held out a hand.
Dance with me.
The invitation was so sudden, so out of the blue, I actually flinched. I'm not sure that's a good idea.
Nonsense.
He didn't wait for me to finish. Instead, he took the drink from my hand and placed it beside Prashant's discarded glass on the highboy.
Follow my lead. I promise I won't step on your feet too much.
He glanced down at my Dolce & Gabbana heels.
Those are steel-toed, right?
I lifted the skirting of the dress slightly, giving him a better view of wiggling digits on my open-toed shoes. He winked as he hooked his arm under mine.
That's okay. Mine are. We'll be fine.
The counterfeit crowd clapped polite applause as the band finished out their number. A moment later, a sweet, almost symphonic melody wafted down from the risers as the music resumed. Xavier turned, pulled me to him, his left arm across my back, letting me discover that a respectable distance between two bodies could still inspire illicit thoughts.
Are you always so tense? It's not ballet, Rosalind. You don't have to worry about keeping perfect form.
For all I know, in a crowd like this, there may be some of the very candidates you're considering for me. I don't want them looking over and seeing me swooning all over you. Just to showcase my self-control, I braced my grip in his, boxing my arm at a rigid angle and forcing our bodies apart. Xavier exhaled and paused, moving his hand down my back and flattening his palm. He pressed me to him insistently, negating the space I'd gained.
They're not here, so you can... whatever all over me you want.
He lowered his chin, his lips brushing against my ear.
We'll talk business, but dance with me properly. You need the practice.
Whatever argument my tongue had ready, my feet quashed when Xavier coaxed me left and right, perfectly synchronized against the music. I didn't have to think. His movements became my will. I drifted with him across the floor under his command. The euphoria broke only when I began to hear him whisper in time to the band's refrain. You know this song? I felt, more than heard, the rumble of a chuckle in his chest.
Moonlight Serenade. I have a thing for Glenn Miller, the way you have for Mae West.
So you shun the modern as well? We make quite the pair, don't we? He pulled back and looked down, his eyes focused on my lower lip, his breath scented with red wine, intoxicating me.
Yes, we do.
I cleared my throat and moved my gaze to take in the crowd to the right, reminding myself that I had a working relationship with Xavier, nothing more. Found me a husband yet?
You didn't hire me to find you a husband?
Blinking against the twinkle of the lights made me dizzy. I'm quite certain I did,
No, you didn't.
he assured me.
You hired me to find you a pre-screened pool of potential fiancé candidates. And yes, I have some news on that front. I was actually planning on having my people call your people in the morning, as the yuppies used to say, so I could get on your calendar. I've decided I need to observe you at work since it's such an integral part of your life.
I thought you said that wasn't relevant. Can't you just borrow Jack's notes from last time? Xavier shook his head.
Jack wasn't looking then for what interests me.
In the back of my mind, evil gremlins began to draw stick figures about what interested a man like Xavier, with his sinfully good looks, cool intellectualism, and ability to make my guts feel like smashed grapes. I'm heading out to Japan for a few days tomorrow, but I can have Carmen find us something for when I get back.
Perfect. I'm heading out to Singapore myself.
With a grace a swan would have envied, he dipped me, and left me dipped. You don't have to mock me. Pull me back up, please. He did so slowly, carefully, tenderly, teasingly.
I'm not. I go where the talent is. Believe it or not, you're not my only client, Rosalind.
Given how much time you've spent with me over the last few weeks, I find that unlikely. I tried to walk away when Xavier's grip tightened. With the slightest tug, he pulled me back to his side, his fingers woven in mine. He turned on the crowd of milling millionaires taking survey.
Are you here alone?
Not to be curt, Zav, but given what I hired you for, you think I would be here with a date? Faltering, his hold loosened.
No, of course not. I didn't mean anything.
Okay. I crossed my arms over my chest and studied the shifting sands of Xavier's expression. Was he hinting at something? asking my permission? Maybe he was looking for someone that fit his own profile of a partner. Maybe he'd relented and was merely looking for someone who fit the profile of his own bed. Or maybe he'd come with someone to begin with. Feeling the pit of my stomach drop, my eyes began to dart around the room, looking for a hostile glare from a gorgeous woman who wished me death, dismemberment, and a run in my pantyhose for stepping up on her man. Never mind the fact that he had stepped up to me. Wanting to showcase the amiable relationship, I found myself prattling. Actually, I'm here with two someones, Kamakshi and her fiancé.
The one who put this arranged marriage notion in your head?
Xavier asked. I nodded.
I'd like to meet her. Her engagement won my firm a huge commitment from the head of Beta House after all. I feel like I owe her a finder's fee.
As a matter of fact, Kamakshi's the CTO of a startup herself. She might need an HR person soon. Let me introduce you. I paused on the edge of the dance floor, planted my hands on my hips, and began to sweep the room trying to identify the target. Where did she go? Xavier walked up behind me, close enough so that if I stumbled backward, it would be against the wall that was his chest. The temptation to lean back brimmed within.
Is she about 5'6", long black hair, wearing a beautiful red sari?
Yes, where do you see her? His hand anchored on my shoulder, spinning me around as his other hand pointed to a couple retreating into the shadows at the edge of the room, looking like they were about to single-handedly resurrect San Francisco's defunct exotic erotic ball. A few other party patrons glanced at them askew, then laughed and looked away. I, on the other hand, stiffened, though seriously. For some parts of the city, the impromptu groping session was fairly mild. That did nothing to soothe my jealousy, of course. I couldn't remember the last time I'd been so wrapped up in someone that I'd thrown myself at him in public that way. To be so consumed by emotion and desire. When I felt the pinprick of a tear in the corner of my eye, I turned on heel and put on my best business-ready stoic face. Perhaps another time. Seems she's busy? Xavier's hand on my shoulder tightened. When I turned to him, he moved his hands up to cup both my cheeks, locking our eyes.
You'll have that soon.
I gasped. I didn't say...
Shh.
The pad of his index finger fell against my lips, stilling my words but quickening my heart.
You don't have to. I know you.
His gray eyes narrowed as his hand fell away.
I'm not going to let you down. I'm going to find you someone who will set your heart and your body on fire.
That's not... I finally got out when breathing became possible. He cocked his head to the side as his eyes flashed quickly to the amorous couple in the shadows.
Tell me you don't want someone to kiss you like that.
My eyes closed. I didn't know why it made me feel tight in my skin to admit this to, of all people, Xavier, the very person in charge of amending my single status. His hands pressed into my cheeks with just enough pressure to cause me to open my eyes and stare into his with confusion.
We all want to be kissed that way, Rosalind.
His lips were right against mine. When had he gotten so close?
I do. You do. We do.
What was I doing? Was I leaning into him? Was he leaning into me? I tilted my head and closed my eyes, not really sure why. Xavier's breath mingled with mine. I could taste his essence, steely and masculine on my tongue. My senses drenched, sound, scent, touch. My being was deluged by Xavier's existence. And then, nothing. Coolness fell over me as his heat evacuated my space. When I opened my eyes, he was already halfway across the dance floor, his back the only view his retreat afforded. Xav. My plea went for nothing. His steps carried him directly across the couples twirling to a Count Basie number, past the bar, around the crowd, and out the door. Never once did he turn back, and never once did I take my eyes off him until he was gone.
Chapter 10. Xavier. The cab was my lifeline. Without it, I was going to turn, run the distance back to Rosalind, and kiss her, and my career goodbye. I was going to do a lot more than that. My lust consumed me. I couldn't stop myself with a kiss. I wanted her. I wanted her beneath me. I wanted her to call out my name. I'd seduce her, not that she'd need much convincing. The hunger in her eyes when I'd made my promise told me as much. But the fallout would be horrific. I'd have her. I'd use her. I'd throw her away. And with it, I'd throw my company down the drain. I pushed past a blonde who tried the old pull out a cigarette and look around for a lighter routine. The voices of the high rollers smoking outside the firehouse flattened when they noticed my agitated state. The cab was only a few hundred meters away, but was moving much too slowly. As soon as the black Ford Escape was curbside, I dove into the trench of a back seat. Ashbury and Waller. The driver turned on his meter and pulled into traffic. I didn't know if he hadn't noticed my nerves, or if it was just another Friday night as far as he was concerned.
Seatbelt?
Mind if I make a call? The cabbie gave a chuckle.
No, go ahead. Me cab is Sue cab.
As the line tried to connect, the silver screen in my mind put on a mental newsreel, replaying the last few minutes complete with mocking, corny voiceover. Hot date or a date with doom? I cursed inwardly. What the hell? What the bloody hell? No, I didn't actually kiss Rosalind, but I'd come far too close. And God, how I'd wanted to kiss her. Badly. Freaking Kennedy. What was he doing making this request of me? What was I doing agreeing to it? Cowering in shame, I imagined Montmir's finger wagging at me. I did it because the thought of seeing if I could get Rosalind to respond to my wooing was too much a temptation to resist. I did it because I wanted to do it. Kennedy's invitation had merely been a convenient excuse. Maybe Rosalind called it like she saw it. Maybe being around her after having a few glasses of wine had been a mistake. Though what self-respecting single man wouldn't want to kiss her, sober or otherwise? Rosalind was confident, successful, ambitious, and not afraid to get what she wanted. And beautiful, though not in the way modern models and cultural icons would recognize. None of that Silicon Valley, fake beauty on a stick with layers of makeup and dripping in designer labels routine. Rosalind possessed a timeless sense of elegance, a poise that few women of this era possessed. She did not deny her femininity, and yet she was fiercely independent, self-assured, and resolved. I couldn't remember the last time I'd been as tempted by a woman's mind as her body.
Hello?
Better than cold water, the voice on the other end of the line brought me back to reality. My assignment was to find Rosalind a viable fiancé, and that was the whole reason I had just done what I did. "Good evening, Mr. Kennedy," I said, sounding as slick and normalized as if I wasn't eating my own soul. "Xavier Holmes, I wanted to follow up with you regarding the question you asked. Miss Betters is a fine dancer."
So she accepted the tickets I had sent to her. And who was she there with? Remember, I wanted to make sure she isn't already seeing someone. She might just be looking for a figurehead husband.
"She brought her best friend, but the name escapes me at the moment. Something unusual, Indian." There was a pause on the other end of the line, followed by a single word.
Kamakshi.
Yes, I think that was it.
You didn't mention my name to her, did you?
Which her did he mean? Not that it mattered. The answer was the same for both. "No, Mr. Kennedy, as we agreed." as is prudent until such time as it becomes necessary. Can I ask, though, how you knew Miss Betters's friend's name?
We crossed paths at Stanford once, years ago.
He stated matter-of-factly.
When you and Rosalind danced, who led?
Confusion filled me, followed by heat. Determining the answer forced me to relive the moments when I held her in my arms. I did.
And what about that other thing?
I swallowed, hoping the sound didn't carry over the cell connection. She would have. The voice on the other end was suddenly filled with suspicion.
But you didn't though, right?
No, sir, I didn't kiss her. I should have. I could have blamed it on being drunk. I could have blamed it on being swept up in the moment. I could have blamed it on being a stupid male. Now I'd only blame it on myself. Shall I proceed with adding your name to the official candidate list then? A low rumble from the other side followed with a sly tone.
Yes. I would be happy to compete for the role of Rosalind's husband. Though trust me, Xavier, it won't be much of a competition.
Chapter 11. Rosalind.
Are you sure you're okay?
My watery, bloodshot eyes met the driver's in the rearview mirror, looking like a not entirely unattractive corpse in the backseat of the town car. Even I doubted my own conviction. I'll be fine. Just need some rest. His thick Pakistani-accented words flew by so fast, I could barely catch them.
Says you. Says all your type. You think you control so much money, you can control every little molecule in your body. But Estafula, last time I had a person looking like you in my cab. He died before paying the fare.
Despite the fact that it hurt, I laughed.
I'm not kidding.
He looked between me and the traffic he was whizzing by in turn.
Died right where you're sitting. DEAD. 1 minute it was Trans-America Building, please. Next it was the city morgue. New definition to stiffing the fare.
The frigid and relentless rain complemented all my aches and pains. By the time I'd gotten into the building, my coat was drenched, my roller bag had become a portable water tank, and my hair looked like it had been styled by Picasso. It didn't rain much in San Francisco in the spring, but when Mother Nature got the notion, she made it count. Top it off with the fact that my cell phone battery was dead, and the trifecta of blah was complete. After an elevator ride that seemed to take twice as long as normal, I looked forward to drying off, putting on some fuzzy pajamas, and curling up in bed with a strudel. No bounding, exuberant German shepherd went insane when I came through the door, however. It was then that I remembered the dog walker saying that he wouldn't bring him back if it happened to be raining, which I decided was a good thing. A loyal pup sharing the blanket with you on a bad day was one thing. A damp canine and accompanying smell were hard to tolerate when you already felt like your head might explode and your stomach turn itself on to existentialism. I'd barely made it home when I collapsed on the couch and promptly fell asleep. Sometime later, I squinted, making out the time from the DVD player under the TV. I had a meeting in an hour, one that had been chaos for Carmen to pull together. Yawning, I got to my feet and stretched. Much to my chagrin, that simple act set the world on spin. Taking measured steps and half bent over, I managed the distance to the kitchen, putting on the teapot as I plugged my phone into the charger and picked up the rarely used cordless landline. "Carmen, I'm back, for better or worse." A sneeze of epic proportions sealed off the statement.
You don't sound so good.
Believe me, I sound better than I look. Sorry I didn't call before. I must have left my cell on when we took off from Narita. The battery was dead on arrival at SFO. Then I fell asleep the second I got home. Anything urgent going on?
Nothing that can't wait or that I can't push back except...
Carmen drew out the second syllable, imbuing it with foreboding.
Have you checked your email?
Number I was too busy on the plane going over the patent applications. Sanchez has to pull in some more recent references or we're going to run into problems down the line. Why? Anything a must-do now? After a pause, more pregnant than a reality show teenager, Carmen said,
I guess you didn't see the one from Xavier Holmes or get my text.
"Oh no, he's supposed to shadow me at the office today." Re-energized by panic, I ran to the bathroom and fetched out my makeup. I had to do something about the red blotches and bags under my eyes. I totally forgot. Is it okay if he sits in on the strategy meeting, or do you think Bob Clark will think that's too weird?
I'm sure Bob will be okay with it, but I'm surprised he's not at your place yet.
My hand froze, levitating the wand of mascara mid-brush. What do you mean he's not at my place yet? Why would Bob Clark come to my house? No, not Bob. Xavier. He said he wanted to meet at your place and ride over to Beta House with you. I told him to pick you up at 2:30. What? He's coming here? It was at that exact moment that the doorbell rang. One look at me and he's going to run away. Unless he came dressed in a hazmat suit or has some crazy fetish for contracting contagious diseases.
With charm like that, the fact that some guy didn't snap you up long ago is shocking.
I could hear the smile in Carmen's voice. Blame it on my tendency to snap back. Fine. Okay, I can do this. I'm coming in for this meeting, then I'm coming straight back home. I don't think I can take that man looking at me like a monkey in a cage when I feel this terrible. I'll see you in an hour. The doorbell harkened again, this time a double insistent set of ding-dong, ding-dong. I held back a sneeze, literally pinching my nose closed, and opened the door. Mr. Holmes, I'll be ready in just a... His eyes grew wide as he took me in from head to toe. What a sight I must have been. Stringy locks of blonde hair lumped in random intervals like uncooked pasta, half-made-up face, eyes red as Mars. My jeans were still wet near the bottom, stained a darker blue by saturation. Though heat filled my cheeks and my head experimented with vertigo, chills racked my body, making me shake when the cool air from the hallway floated in with his scent. He stepped in without invitation.
You look terrible.
Just what every girl dreams a handsome man will say when she opens the door. I bit my tongue as if the words could be erased by drawing blood. I'm sorry. When I'm sick, the connections between my brain and my mouth short-circuit and all kinds of things. Wait a minute, how did you get up here? My head peeked out the empty doorframe, surveying the hallway for evidence of a break-in. You can't access this floor without a passcode or a...
8-17-93.
Now, I was sure the room was spinning. How the hell? Do you know my passcode? He jumped around my question as easily as he maneuvered around my body to hang his coat on the rack.
Has anyone ever told you how predictable you can be?
Answer me. You got IT connections? Did you get them to hack into my security system? That's illegal, you know, not to mention highly unethical. I've only told the code to Carmen, the dog walker, my cleaning lady, and Kamakshi. Don't tell me you now also place domestic staff and Linda is actually a mole.
If I'm willing to find potential mates, why would a house cleaner be such a stretch?
Xavier shut the door behind him and set down a briefcase.
Last time I was here, I was standing right behind you as you plugged it in. Remember, the time you didn't even notice I was in the lift with you? I didn't mean to memorize it. Have to admit, though, I did Google them to see if they meant anything obvious.
I waited expectantly for him to continue, watching a raindrop slick down over an ebony twist of hair before dissolving into his blue shirt. And...
Like I said, you're predictable. Most people either use someone's birthday or their own, though I'll give you some points for originality in using Mae West's.
I'll have it changed. Just give me a few minutes to get ready and we can... Whoa. The room twisted as my legs gave out from under me. I felt like I'd just bungee jumped off the top of the Golden Gate Bridge. Airborne. I was utterly airborne, except that I was braced behind my shoulders and under my knees by something thick and strong, and that smelled divine. Xavier's eyes met mine as my head fell against his shoulder.
Rosalind, you're so hot.
And I said you're handsome, so now we're even, I answered, trying to figure out what had just happened. How was I so close to him? And were we moving? We must be, or else vertigo had come on for real.
No, I mean, you have a fever.
He admonished with a teasing smile.
Have you taken anything? You have any aspirin or acetaminophen?
My body flattened out as my back hit the bed. I'm fine. It's just a cold.
Like hell it is. Colds don't trigger fevers.
I tried to shoo away his concern. I'm just weak. I haven't eaten anything since waking up in Tokyo. The food on the plane, even just the smell of it turned my stomach. Xavier's hand flattened over my forehead. Even if what he said wasn't true, I was pretty sure that fact alone would have pushed the mercury up. He sat on the edge of the bed.
Of course it smelled bad. You were coming down with the flu. I'm sure if you had anything in your stomach, it would all be coming back up now.
His eyes drifted down the length of my body.
Didn't you think to change when you got home from the airport? We need to get you out of those damp clothes.
Oh, no, you don't, buddy. Despite the dizziness, I shot up into a sitting position. His hands flew out, palms forward and flat.
I'm only trying to help. If you want me to call someone else to come over instead, let me know the number.
I scooted to the end of the bed before wobbling to my feet. Kamakshi's in LA seeing a woman about a dress, and as she reminded me recently, all my other friends have moved on with their lives. I can change myself, but would you do something for me? The look on his face was so earnest, it unnerved me. He looked like a puppy waiting for me to throw a ball.
Anything.
I pointed vaguely toward the kitchen as I shuffled to the bathroom door. There's already hot water in the kettle. I keep the tea bags in a drawer under the coffee pot. Anything but Earl Grey or Lipton, if you don't mind.
Of course.
I closed the bathroom door behind me and fell to my knees. I needed a minute to get under control. The room was treating me to an encore of vertigo. After a few minutes, it stopped spinning and I straightened. By the time I'd managed to strip down, brush my hair, and redress, a good 15 minutes had passed. My body's temptation to make good use of the porcelain throne in every way possible thwarted any attempt at being swift. I kept my resolve about me and back-talked my body. A cooling earthenware mug sat on the nightstand when I re-emerged from the bathroom, along with a note in script way too refined to belong to this century.
You're far too sick to go anywhere. Put on some pajamas, get into bed. I called Carmen. She said she'd reschedule the meeting and to listen to whatever I say. Drink your tea and I'll be back shortly. I took your keychain for the door and I'll let myself in. Just don't change the code before then.
Zav. There it was again. I didn't know why that simple name felt so good to say. Almost mythical, like it should be a character in Zelda. The tea warmed me deep in my chest, where I'd felt the coldest. Xavier couldn't have picked out a better brew. The balance of chamomile and peppermint in the herbal blend soothed both my stomach and my pounding head. Next to the note lay 2 small white tablets. He must have given the kitchen a thorough once-over to fish those out of some remote corner of a cabinet. I paused before downing them. Maybe they were already past expiration. I'd take the risk. Anything to get rid of the timpani player on meth currently residing between my eyebrows. Somewhere between sips 3 and 4, my eyes grew heavy. Thanks for listening to this episode of Have Gown Will Wed, written by Killian McRae. The text and audio copyright for this production are held by Killian McRae, the sole owner of the content therein. Digital voice narration provided by 11 Labs. The music you're hearing is Happy Alley, written by Kevin MacLeod and made available via incompetech.com. It's licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. http creativecommons.org/licenses/by/4.0. See you next time.